Alrighty, we can go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. I am Ashley Carlisle, and I'm the Education Coordinator for the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society, and today I am your moderator / presenter for the first hour. So just a few housekeeping tips. Just please make sure that you have your speakers on mute, and then I'll probably have Marie help me go through some questions, and I'll try to pay attention closely to the chat, to any questions or comments that you all may have and would like to share. And for the first hour, so 10 to 11, I'll be talking about the national SIP highlights and also the education programs that NAFWS has and are working on. And then for the last hour, I'm going to have our NAFWS interns talk about kind of their experiences and just talk about what they've learned and what kind of projects they're working on. And then after their presentations, I'll open up for 15 to 20 minutes of questions, and those questions could be addressed to our interns and to myself. So just to let you know, that's kind of how today's sessions are going to go for today. With that, Mathis and Jojo, and then once, I don't know, here, let me see, is Sam on? Okay, so once Sam is on, so interns, this is like meeting style, the Zoom that we are on right now. So you are allowed to share your screen for your presentation. So when I hand over the mic to you all, you can just kind of go ahead and share your screen and then show your PowerPoint. And with that, we can get started. Okay, let me share my screen. All right, can you all see my screen? Okay, if I can get a nod or a yep.
We can see it. It's still showing
in presenter mode.
It's not in presenter mode yet. It's like it's still loading.
Oh, okay. I see it. Can you see it now?
Looks good.
Cool. Okay. So again, I'm Ashley Carlisle, Education Coordinator for the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society, and my presentation is going to be going over the national SIP highlights and and also our education programs. But first, a little bit about me. I grew up in Tehachapi, New Mexico, which is in northwest New Mexico, and also is part of the Navajo Nation, and I am a citizen of the Navajo Nation. I grew up in Tehachapi with my family, and this is my mom and my dad, Audrey and Donovan Carlisle, and then I have 3 sisters. I have an older sister, her name is Alex, and she graduated from New Mexico State University in animal science and animal nutrition or livestock nutrition. And then my younger sister, Cheyenne, she is going to be graduating from New Mexico State University, and she is majoring in animal science and ag business. And then my little brother just recently graduated from high school this year, so he's still trying to figure out what he's gonna do. And then I have my youngest sister. She's going to be starting her sophomore year at Kirtland High School. And then in the graduation picture here is that's my grandma, and then my family. That's my knowledge. So that's my grandma on my dad's side. And kind of with that, so this is my family that I grew up with, and then this is my personal family. I have 2 fur babies. So I have Sarge, who is our puppy. He's supposed to be a Pomeranian, but we found out that he wasn't, because he's huge now. He's 20 pounds. And then we also have our kitty, and his name is Doc, and he's named after Doc Holliday. And then also my family is going to continue to grow. My fiance is currently at Fort Sam Houston and San Antonio, and he's training to be a combat medic within the National Guard. And this is his side of the family, his mom and his dad, his stepmom and his stepdad. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me and about my family. And then kind of before I got into the field that I'm in natural resources, I was, I guess you could say, a girly girl if you were to ignore my haircut. Sorry, that's just funny. And I grew up, in ranching, and my family had a cow-calf operation, and we grew up riding horses and branding cows, and also through 4-H. And my little brother and my little sister currently are involved in 4-H now, and he's raising some steers, and my little sister is helping raise steers and lambs. So they're continuing their family tradition. And then so the rest of my family, they went towards kind of the agriculture route, and then I kind of drifted away and went into the natural resources route, and I ended up going to Colorado State University. I graduated in 2017 in fish, wildlife, and conservation biology. And then in 2019 of December, I graduated with my Master's of Science in Conservation Leadership, also at Colorado State University. And then in December of 2019 is when I had started with the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society. And again, I'm really blessed to have the position that I have now, and to have gotten a job before I graduated. So that was really nice. And so far it has been, I've been having a great time, and we have great staff here, and my coworkers are awesome and really supportive. So with that, enough about me. So the National SIP, and what the whole name is a National Native American Environmental Summer Youth Practicum. Let's see. Sorry, my camera is getting all weird. And then here on the right side shows our logo that we had kind of come up with, and the purpose of the logo is the two hands. So one hand is our seasoned professionals and current professionals within the natural resources, kind of passing on the torch, or passing on the feather of knowledge and of natural resources, TEK, to our younger generation and to our Native youth. And it kind of has trees in the background to represent some nature-y aspects, and also to allow that knowledge to be able to shine, and that's kind of where the sun comes in. So that's the explanation of the logo that we have specifically for the Summer Youth Practicum. So the National SIP, it's a summer program for incoming 10th to 12th grade Native students. And the purpose of the SIP is to engage the Native youth to gain a clear understanding of natural resources, and specifically tribal natural resource management, while introducing students into the natural resource career fields and diverse agencies, and that kind of includes non-governmental and governmental agencies. And we do have SIPs that are specific to the region. So we do have regional SIPs, such as the Southwest region holds a SIP annually. And then also we have the national SIP, which is more of what I organize. And then for the regional SIPs, I help organize the regions and setting that up. So the NAFWS has, a list of purposes, and I feel like the national SIP specifically addresses these two purposes, which is to educate Native Americans involved in fish and wildlife management, policy decision makers, community members, and others similarly dedicated to tribal natural resource management of the best management practices. So again, this is just kind of educating our Native youth that are maybe directly or indirectly involved in fish and wildlife management, meaning that they come from families with the history of employment within tribal natural resources, or they're farmers, ranchers, or they just love the outdoors and have an interest in expanding their educational endeavors within natural resources. And then the second purpose that the national SIP kind of really fulfills is to provide professional publications and promotional activities for disseminating information about Native American fish and wildlife resources to members, organizations, public officials, and the general public. So again, the national SIP is a summer program that's a week long that really focuses on disseminating information regarding Native American fish and wildlife resource management, as well as careers within the natural resources to Native youth. And then additionally, our goal within the national SIP is for NAFWS to provide a safe, fun, enriching, mind-opening, natural resource-based topics, including professional development, learning, and also a great learning experience for everyone, including our staff and our guest speakers at the national SIPs. And I think one thing I kind of want to touch base on is that previous SIPs, I don't think they touch too much on professional development. So that's one thing that, my goal as an education coordinator, as we do these different programs, is to really kind of really incorporate and include professional development and give professional development a bigger seat at the table in terms of planning the national SIP and also like organizing the agenda. So that's one thing that, that I really hope to continue to add on and to build within our NAFWS youth programs, and also specifically within the summer youth practicum. So this year, the National SVP was held in Estes Park, Colorado, and it was from July 25th to the 31st, so just a couple of weeks ago. I don't know about our other staff, but I'm still recovering. It was such a great week, and it was fun, and at the same time, it was so tiring. But it was a great week for our staff and for our students. We had amazing students that had attended, and we're really excited for them, and also I think it gives us a lot of hope for our Native youth that are going to be taking on our roles within within the natural resource professions. So kind of some student demographics. We did have a total of 9 students that had attended the SIP. Originally we had 10, but one student had to excuse himself. And then also we did have additional, 4 students that had applied, but just due to their circumstances, they weren't able to attend this year. So from the region, so a majority of our students came from the Great Lakes region. We had 5 students that came from the Great Lakes region, and then we had 4 students come from the Southwest. And then we also had 4 students that identified as Menominee, and then we had 1 student that identified as Wichita and affiliated tribes, and then 2 students that were Acamel Oatem, and then 1 was part of the Hickory Apache, and then also we had our last student was part of the Navajo Nation. And then in terms of genders, we did have 8 females and 1 male student that were a part of the SIP. And even though there's all this diverse in terms of regions, diversity within tribal affiliations, and within gender, all of our students, they were really inclusive, and they were really they really got along really well with each other. And then I'm gonna go through kind of how our week went, and then I'll go through some pictures and explain kind of what the week considered, or what the week comprised of. So on Monday Sunday was travel day, and I'll talk about this more in our challenges, but we did have some of our flights get delayed by like 5 hours. But anyway, Sundays was our travel day, and then Monday was kind of the opening day. We had orientation, so just talked about setting ground rules, and just talking to the students about disrespecting one another, as well as treating the facility and not to feed wildlife. So that's kind of what all considered within, or that was all explained within the orientation that we had. And then also I did a presentation about the introduction to NAFWS. So I went through kind of what NAFWS was and who we are, and what our initiatives were, and kind of the work that we do. And then we went into team building exercises, and then each night we had a talking circle, and that's kind of where we allowed the students to be able to reflect on their day and talk about what they've learned, and what was their positive about the day, and what was a negative about the day, and then how they try to turn that negative into a positive. So I think throughout that week, we really try to encourage our students and our staff to be able to reflect on their day and reflect on their week. And then on Tuesday, we had NAFWS Day, which is where we had all of NAFWS staff do presentations kind of about the work they do and about their backgrounds. And also during that day, we also had NARF who came, and NARF is, we had Dolan maybe come from NARF, which is Native American Rights Fund. He kind of talked about the different policies that were happening right now and the importance of finding your voice within the tribal community and everything. And then on Wednesday, we had some guest speakers, and then we allowed the students to go take a trip down to downtown Essex to do some souvenir shopping and kind of get a feel for the town. And then on Thursday, we had a field trip to Fort Collins, and we met with a nonprofit organization down there called Choose Water People. And also we spent the rest of our day at Colorado State University, my alma mater. And then on Friday, we had our interns. They held a huge session regarding scenarios, and they'll probably talk about that later, so I'm not going to go too much into that. And then Friday was also our closing day, where we had a cookout, and we did get rained on, but we were still able to have our cookout and had our little award ceremony. And then we ended the night with playing some good old-fashioned kickball. Okay, so on Monday, this was our meeting room, and it was a Missouri meeting room here at YMCA of the Rockies, and that's kind of just, you know, where we met, where we convened, and we had most of our lectures within this meeting room. And then again on Monday, we had team building activities. So we had our interns, they were able to organize one team building activity, and that was kind of tossing balloons. And I think just having these team building activities was, you know, super important and critical, just to be able to get the students kind of comfortable around each other. A lot of them have not been outside the reservation or haven't been outside reservations by themselves. So this allowed them to kind of form those friendships and form those relationships with each other. And then also after our team building exercise, we had Sally Williams and Rick. So I had asked them to come up, and so Sally was our previous education coordinator, and I invited her to come, and I think I really appreciate her coming to the SIP and doing a talk, and she talked about their R principles, so respect and reciprocity, and kind of talk about the importance of those different R's that she had talked about. And I think, you know, she really has set the tone for the week, and they're just incredible speakers and sharing stories. And then again, each night we had our talking circle. So I had the students pass around Simon, which is that apple pillow on the right side of the screen that Clarice is holding. So I had them, again, you know, talk about the positive and negative about their day. And then usually each day we gave them kind of a different question, so a different prompt for them to ask. And then, so for Monday, their question was, you know, what was something that you learned today new? So each night we had this, and we also had our staff participate, and also our interns participate within these talking circles. And then on Tuesday, we started with having our very own Heidi McCann. She did a presentation regarding TEK, Indigenous knowledge, and kind of incorporating how we can incorporate that within modern technology. So she had a great lecture, and also her hands-on activity included having the students play this really awesome game. I forgot what it was called. Never Alone. So it's this video game called Never Alone, and like it's based on the TEK and Indigenous knowledge within one of the Alaskan villages and tribes. So it's all in the native language, and the girl within the game has like her own spirit animal. So this kind of really connected how we could use TEK and also, I guess, Indigenous knowledge, how we can use that within, I guess, modern times and use in contemporary ways to be able to keep the culture going, language going. So that's what she had talked about. And then we also, so my presentation that day was talking more about professional development. So we did have a professional development session, and that included talking about resumes, resume building, advocating for yourself, practicing independency. So I think, again, this was really important for the students, and incorporating the professional development kind of side of things, and also stuff information regarding higher education, which was more on Thursday when we visited College State University. And I think this kind of really got students to be able to, get pumped up for college. And also, if they weren't thinking about college, hopefully doing these sessions, it kind of got them thinking about the possibility of them going to college and, setting goals and how to set goals and those kind of aspects in terms of professional development. And then here again, here's Dahlin Maybe from Native American Rights Fund. And then we had Robert Romero. I did not include a video of Sean Cross, our fish and wildlife biologist. I couldn't find a picture of him, but he also talked about fisheries management and natural resource management. So that's what his session was about. And then Robert Romero, our CLEO consultant, he talked about his path and talked about his job and what he did within the Secret Service or being a service agent within Fish and Wildlife Services. And then he also, so his hands-on activity was doing a mock crime investigation. So he got a teddy bear and sprinkled some ketchup on it, and then he allowed the students to be able to hold the investigation and kind of get an idea of what he did within his profession. And then also they ended the day with a hike. And then again, this is one of the students' favorite activities that they did, was taking this little hike on YMCA. And then on Wednesday was when we, sorry, I just read Darren's comment. So on Wednesday was when we had our guest speakers. So here is Sharon Scully with Wildlife Services with APHIS. And she kind of talked about, her professional path and about her work within the airports and doing research on bird strikes and taking care of those, managing that issue. And then we also had, okay, sorry, my laptop kind of froze. Then we had Ada again from APHIS, and she talked about plants and protection and quarantine. So she had the students make a moth trap, and she talked about bug infestations within trees specifically. And then again, the students, they made their own little moth traps here. And then we had Melissa Castellano, the tribal liaison with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, and she talked about, her profession and what she does, also about her story. And I think again, seeing these students seeing, a native within U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and her just sharing her story was really impactful to the students. And we did have a couple students get emotional, and and I think it also just gave them an idea of they're not alone, and that they can do what they set their minds to, and to have that role model. And Melissa did a really great job in her presentation. And then lastly, we had Greenwood Rehabilitation Center, Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. They came out and they had 2 volunteers that, took their time to come out and talk to us about the rehabilitation center and what they do. And they also gave tips about, if you ever find a baby bird, or if you ever find a hurt mammal, how to take it into the rehabilitation center, or how to go about helping that animal. So again, a lot of the students were super excited and to learn about wildlife rehabilitation, and also in general just to learn about all the different professions that people have within natural resources. And also I think another great thing that all of our guest speakers did and did a really great job on was talking about their path to where they got to currently. And I think just showing that not everyone's path within their everyone's career path isn't linear, and it isn't the same, and it doesn't really, some people's path may follow a traditional route, which is where, you graduate high school, you go straight into college, and then you graduate, and you go straight into get your master's, and you go straight to get your PhD. But, you can take a non-traditional route, which, that can include taking a year off and going back to get your master's degree, or not going into college straight after high school and getting a job and then going back. So I think learning about all these different paths that these people, have had and have taken and, are currently navigating right now was really important for the students to be able to just kind of see, how it really is, and also that to kind of relieve that pressure of, that traditional educational route. Which again, at the same time, we did really encourage the students to look into colleges and to set goals and set goals for their personal lives, but also set educational goals for themselves. So again, I'm really thankful that we had these speakers and that they spoke about their past and about their careers that they're doing now, and really sharing that some of that personal information with the students. And I think that was what really made the students be able to open up and really think about their future. And then also when each of the students at each session, they introduced themselves, and another great thing that about our students was that they introduced themselves in their native language, and I think that that really surprised and some of our speakers, and a lot of them were like, oh, I want to give more in-depth introduction about myself. So I think the students definitely taught our guest speakers and taught us as staff the importance of language, and also again giving us that hope that they're going to be the next ones taking over our professions once they get older and everything. So I have high hopes for them. And then on Wednesday evening, we allow them to go to downtown Estes to be able to spend time in Estes and to, go souvenir shopping. And again, I think they really enjoyed going down to Estes during that time and kind of had some free time within that time when they were in Estes. And then also on Wednesday was when we had Julie Thorstensen, the executive director, came to the SYP, and she talked about again her personal path, her personal career path, and I think hearing from an executive director, her path and how it was different. She had her ups and she had her downs and everything. It kind of again opened their eyes to the different opportunities and different paths that everyone has to get to where they are now. And then following that, we had our interns, each of our interns, they presented about their college experiences and gave advice in terms of applying for colleges and navigating through college life. And they all did a really great job in presenting, and overall at the SYP, they were super helpful, and they were really engaged with our students and also engaged within our presenters, and they held themselves in a really respectful way. So I'm really happy that our interns were able to come up and be able to help us implement this great program that we had a couple weeks ago. And then on Thursday was when we had our trip to Fort Collins. So in the morning, we visited Trees, Water, People, which is a nonprofit organization that works nationally and also internationally. So they focus their talk on working within tribes within the continental United States, and growing trees is what their big thing was. So the students were able to go to their office in Fort Collins, and they learned about what Trees, Water, People does, and again also learned about the different paths that each of the staff had taken, and how they got their job, and the idea and importance of networking. And then we went to the Colorado State Forest Service Nursery, and our speaker was Zach, and he again led a tour through the nursery, and he talked a lot about trees. And I think the fact of the information that he shared, but also the fact of how much information he knew and he could be able to talk to us about, and within the tour, it also, I think, really impacted the students, because a lot of them were like, oh, he knew so much, and my goal is to be like him someday, to be able to just be able to spit out so much information to students and to people, so that basically being educated, and he did really well, and he was really well spoken. And again, he also talked about his path, and his path included being a chef for a couple of years, and then he decided to go back to school and he majored in forestry. So kind of just seeing, you know, that again, just talking about the different paths that these different speakers had was really mind-opening, and I think really enriching and encouraging to the students. And then after the nursery, we went to Colorado State University, and I specifically wanted the students to see the Native American Culture Center, just so that they know that there are centers and resources out there specifically for Native students. So I had the Assistant Director, Tiffany Callie, kind of talk about the resources that specifically Colorado State University has in terms of, you know, providing resources and support to the Native students at CSU. But I think this also allows students to be able to understand that there are resources out there for Native students within different colleges and universities. They may look a little different and they may serve at different capacities, but there are definitely resources out there, and that, you know, all they would need to challenge themselves to do is to be able to look up those different resources out there for Native students in terms of scholarships, you know, counseling services, tutoring services, mentoring services. So all of those resources and services are out there. And, you know, again, they're at different capacities at different universities and colleges. But I think this is, you know, having the students visit the NAC Center, allow them to be able to be like, okay, you know, now when I go into looking into colleges, I want to see if they have, you know, a Native American Culture Center, or if they had any specific resources for students. And then here's just a picture of me talking about the LSC, so the Lower Student Center at Colorado State University. So as we went through and walked through CSU, I kind of, you know, pointed out different buildings, and they kind of had their own little tour guide that I tried to serve as. And then we also toured the Warner College of Natural Resources, and we were able to have them look specifically at the different programs that they had that was outside the dean's office. Unfortunately, I didn't have a specific tour guide for the College of Natural Resources. I think everyone was still kind of working from home during COVID. So, but we were fortunate enough to have one of the public officers come out, and our public information officer and communications person come out and kind of talk about more in specific Warner College of Natural Resources and their programs, and also allow students to get some cool handkerchiefs. And then I was able to reach out to one of my mentors, Dr. Shane Canadis, and he's in biology. His background's in biology, but he rented out the lecture hall within one of the biology buildings. And I think this also gave the students an idea of what, you know, the lecture hall, and, you know, what kind of get that little mini college experience in terms of taking a class. And he talked about, you know, his research in physiology. And I think one thing that he really impacted them was his two, like, big words of advice. So one is know how your mind works. And then second was finding your passion. And again, at the end of this day, at the talking circle, a lot of students really liked his presentation, and liked, you know, that the words of advice that he gave, and everything. And a lot of them, again, networked and asked for his business card. And, you know, they were really excited that they were able to, you know, participate in this and also be able to tour the university. And then we did give them time to go to the bookstore to do some shopping. And then on Friday was when our NAFWS interns, they organized the whole morning. So from 8 to noon, they organized the whole morning, and they came up with different scenarios that the students had to use, you know, the knowledge that they gained from the past week, and apply that to these different scenarios. So we had the interns talk about, you know, they had to come up with a management plan for the Elk and Estes Park. They had to come up with the pros and cons of hydropower, or not hydropower, sorry, for digging a water well within the city, and as also the arguments against I believe it was uranium mining, but I'll have the interns kind of talk more about, their scenarios, and they may touch more on that. And then, so that was like the whole morning of Friday. And then in the afternoon, I did a presentation, kind of a closing presentation, and just talked about, where do we go from here? Like how do we use information from this week, in the future and when we go home? So I kind of talked about that. And again, talking about, planning, setting goals, reaching out to any of us and any of the speakers regarding career paths and professional development. And another big aspect that we really talked with the students was networking. So, getting business cards, and they practiced their elevator speeches with each of us on Wednesday. So I think on Tuesday. So they learned how to, introduce themselves and talk about what they're interested in, and be able to learn how to ask for those different resources from staff and from professionals. So later on Wednesday, they did a really great job in practicing those skills by talking to the guest presenters, asking for business cards, writing down notes and everything. So I think, again, that was something that I had talked about in the closing presentation. And then also, we did get rain on, so we had to wait for the rain to subside, and we ordered a grill, and we made tortilla buns, and we had hot dogs and hamburgers and like chips. So we just had like a really nice cookout, and like all the staff helped and the interns helped make the bread and everything. So I think it really, came out well. And then we ended the night with like an award ceremony. So we awarded the students with we awarded each of the students with a participation certificate, and also like some souvenirs from Estes Park. So they all got a hat, and then they also got some souvenirs specifically from YMCA, so they can remember, their time at YMCA and their time in Estes Park, and everything. So we did that, and then we ended the night with playing kickball in the rain. And it was a really great time that we had that week. And I think, even though the planning and some of the week we did face some challenges, but having such a supportive and helpful staff and interns really, helped the week go by smoothly, and they helped calm me down when we faced the different challenges that we had. And again, we had incredible students, and they were all super engaged, and they were all willing to learn, and they, we're really respectful to us as staff and also to one another, and they didn't exclude any student or anything. They were really inclusive. They played games during their free time. They had Uno, they played spoons, they played cards, they went swimming. So, I think the students that we had, I was really blessed to have a great group of students, and also to have a really supportive and encouraging staff, and the interns as well were super helpful. And again, I couldn't have done, or we couldn't have had a really great experience having this SIP without them, and also without our students. And with that, I'm just gonna go over some of the challenges that we had. So I guess a couple of things, for the future that I'm gonna keep in mind is that one big challenge that we had included a lot of the flights 5 of the students' flights got canceled and rebooked again. And I think that was part of the whole COVID situation, and a lot of states opening up and traveling was going crazy. But again, we were able to navigate that through by just being super flexible. And again, the staff were really calming. They calmed me down, and they were willing to help in any way that they can, and were really allowed me to delegate. And then during this time also, I think I practiced delegating tasks and be able to to ask for help, and a lot of critical thinking, definitely, in terms of navigating those different challenges. And then some other challenges just included, in the planning process, it was really hard with how COVID really changed things, within like a week or within days. So I think those are the two main challenges I think that kind of started out the week. And way before, again, within the planning process, COVID was really hard to kind of navigate and predict in terms of planning. So we had the students wear masks when we were in the dining center and we were more in public places, but when we were in the classroom, we were I guess less lenient on masks, you could say, because we were vaccinated and we were practicing, being safe and everything. And all the students were super good in wearing their mask when they went to public places. And that kind of means like going through the lodge areas or going through the dining center at the YMCA of the Rockies site and Estes Park and at CSU. They did a really great job and also wearing their mask and everything. And also with COVID, just planning the capacity was really difficult and hard to navigate. But hopefully next year, I'm praying that COVID would kind of settle down a little bit and won't be so much of a hassle to consider with in terms of planning and everything. So I think those were the main challenges, and also we had some reservations that were kind of went wonky a little bit, but again, just having supportive staff and remaining calm or trying to remain calm in terms of navigating and being flexible, I think was a really big thing that, I learned personally, and I think also that our staff had learned personally in doing the planning of the SIP and also implementing the SIP during that whole week. And then some of the recommendations and improvements to consider for next year, and this is some of the recommendations and comments that I had gotten from staff and also, mainly from staff. So one is stay in their union cabins. So we hope to have our own, we can make our own food and be kind of more secluded from the main, I feel like maybe the main campus of YMCA. We did have a couple of times where they were setting up like a church revival outside our meeting room and had like big old semi trucks driving around, and it kind of, caused distractions and disruptions during some of the presentations. So I think staying in a union campus will allow us to kind of be more secluded from that type of disruption and noise. And then also we hope to incorporate some awards for the students. So I did have, best camper of the day for each day, and they won like a little coffee, like a travel coffee cup. And, I think just having incentives for the students and, announcing that the first day and awarding the student with the first mug, it really, the next day we saw a big difference in students. So they were like actively taking notes, and they were even more engaged, and they were asking even more thoughtful and hard questions, and being really helpful. So the last couple of days, it was really hard for the staff to be able to, kind of choose a student to award that coffee cup to. So I think one of the things that we want to do is have a best application essay in terms of for applying. I think this will really help in terms of getting, in terms of recruiting for the SIP and recruiting students, and also maybe a best wildlife management group, and maybe sponsor them to go to the national conference to present their wildlife management group plan. And then also creating a scenario. And again, the interns did a really great job in creating the scenarios, but we want to hopefully, improve that and get include a bigger scenario that will involve more roles and kind of be more related to tribes and tribal management, and then also include a map with overlapping boundaries and jurisdictions. I think would really, get our students again really thinking about how tribal management really is, and give them kind of a snippet of how complex managing tribal wildlife and tribal natural resource can be. So those are some of the main recommendations and improvements that we have, and also just like some logistical kind of things. So maybe getting to van early kind of thing. So with that, I'm going to kind of breeze over our NAFWS education programs. So again, the big one was that we have specifically for high school students is our national SIP. That's again a week-long program that we just kind of went over. And then we do have scholarships. And then this is our first year having an internship program. And then we are hoping to continue to engage our Native youth and emerging professionals within our conferences. And then up and coming, I hope to continue to plan our mentoring program. So again, scholarships, we do have a regional and national, we do have a regional and national scholarship. Right now, we do have 2 scholarships out. So the first one is Pacific Regional Scholarship, and here's kind of the flyer of that. And the due date for the Pacific Regional Scholarship is September 3rd, 2021. So if you have any students that are within, the Pacific region, please share this with them and encourage them to apply to be able to get some funding for school. And then also we have our Great Lakes Scholarship, which you do have to be, as a student, you do have to be nominated to be within the applicant pool. And I believe that on September 19th, and that's organized by our Great Lakes Board of Directors. And then also to continue on in terms of goals is just aligning with scholarship policy and being consistent in how we get our scholarships out there for the regional and for our national. So that's kind of more of our scholarship program. And then for conferences, again, we at our national conference that's going to be happening in October, we are going to have our first ever poster session and kind of a meet and greet and networking session during that time, where we're inviting students to be able to present their poster at the conference, at the poster session. And again, the poster does not have to be strictly research. It could be about projects or case scenarios that they have working on. So we're going to have our interns are going to be presenting at the poster conference, or sorry, at the poster session at the national conference. And again, I just encourage our students and interns to attend these conferences and to apply for the travel award. So we do have a travel award for the national conference. So that's in October. And then just having our interns here and having additional interns from other programs attending the conference this week, it really helps in terms of developing your professional development and networking. So continue, interns and students to be proactive and continue to try to participate in conferences. And again, we do have a conference at the Great Lakes, and that's September 19th through the 23rd. And all the information regarding conferences, regarding the poster sessions and abstract submissions, as well as the Student Travel Award, is on our website. And we are accepting poster abstracts until August 18th. And then the Student Travel Award deadline date is August 27th. So just keep those dates in mind. And again, the information is on our website. And then mentoring is up and coming. I'm hoping to set this up and pilot our mentoring program for spring of 2022. So if you are interested in being a mentor, please let me know, and I can include you in terms of all the planning, or I can also send you the application once we get that out. So mentoring is going to be pairing pre-professionals, so college students, with professionals, and most of it's going to be at a virtual capacity, so meeting online and having like coffee meetings or lunch meetings online, as well as including some professional development workshops that our mentors will be able to present on, or be presenters themselves, and also myself in presenting about leadership skills, professional development skills. So that's kind of what I have envisioned for our mentoring program that's up and coming. And again, for our internships, this year we had our first internship program. We had 4 wonderful interns. We had 1 intern that was a BIA Pathways intern, and then 3 NAFWS interns. And I think they were able to do some different individual projects that they worked on and group projects that they worked on. And then most of the internship was virtual, and the only time that we did see them in person was at the national SIP. So we're able to make that and build those relationships in person at the national SIP. And then again, we're going to be meeting up with them at the national conference. So with that, I am going to kind of, let's see. Sorry. And then also, with this first year being, having our internship program, again, it's a time of learning and finding areas of improvement. So I do already have written down, improvements for next year and everything. So again, we hope to have an internship next year, and just keep that in mind and keep a lookout for whenever those applications come out for next year's internship. And for now, I'm going to have the interns are going to take over, and I'm going to have each intern will be able to introduce themselves, talk about their projects, give some feedback or advice for future engagement of Native youth scholars, and that could be specifically for NAFWS's internship program, or kind of more in general NAFWS, or also just in general for give any advice for future engagement for Native youth and scholars for you all. So hopefully you'll be able to get some advice from our interns and feedback. And then again, at the end, we're going to open for questions, comments, and encouragements that can be addressed to interns, and any questions about my presentation regarding the SIP and youth programs, we can address those at the end. So again, we're going to have our interns, each of them are going to have 15 minutes. And then the last 15 minutes is when we're going to open up for questions.